Talk, the home of where the talking is good.
So
it's
good.
your boy, Cody, and the other guy,
Your
and
boy.
the other guy.
Other
Here we
other
go.
guy.
What you're here.
Cody.
Tiny
we're
table, big
here.
room. Yeah.
Sir Bobby Boy.
This is the
Sir
second
Gregory.
time in a row that you will see Robert and myself in the same outfit.
How'd your water dry out? Pretty good?
My what? Oh, from earlier.
Yeah, earlier. Spill. He
Yeah.
tried to take a drink on the pod, and
You
it
know-
just went right down his chin.
Either this is a no. This is wet. It must have happened again, just off camera. I'm just a messy water drinker.
I don't like
guess.
drinking those particular ones. I find it hard to do. Rachel prefers it because she says, and I don't know, she says like drinking from a straw cup like this or drinking from like a wide mouth, whatever you want to call that. She says she drinks more water that way than
don't.
this way.
I definitely find myself drinking more because I can see how much water is left and I want to drink it all.
I think she just takes bigger like drinks when
Yeah.
it's not coming through a straw. I think a straw, you get like a little sip and you're set.
Yeah,
See,
I
I
like that.
chug through a straw.
But this, I can't walk and drink out of it because I'll just make a real big mess.
Oh yeah, that'll be a disaster.
Yeah.
We
That'd
have
be a
straws
talent,
from
though.
like our cups like that, and we just keep them separated. And in my wide mouth, I just put one of those plastic straws down in there, so I can just pull the straw out and drink it if I'm using that. But I don't really use my wide mouths anymore anyway. So
Yeah, sounds like an extra step there.
got my Lulu bottles.
Well, apparently they have
The old loose.
they have like different tops that you can get that have straws that stick up out of them, but that just seems like a lot of work too.
I do love all of our little flask or whatever you want to call those
The
things.
Hydro
They're
Flasks.
awesome. Hydro Flask.
Is that what you have?
Is
That's
this-
a Stanley.
Let's say this is a Nalgene.
The old Nalgene's.
Yeah, that's an Nalgene. And you
I
have
love
a-
it.
that's a
I
Stanley.
got a collection. For however many years we do Nalgene's for camp, I'm going to have a nice little array of camp Nalgene's.
Camp bottles.
I'm up to 2.
We have
two in.
we have 2 of each. We need to stop getting 2 of each because neither one of us really use
Well,
them.
That's
use
what
them.
Kai
They're
said. She's
souvenirs.
like,
though.
I
They're
just need
souvenirs
one.
to save. No, you buy one to use because it's going to get ran down, and especially like the one that we did this year for camp, it has like technically stickers on it. You know, that stuff will wash off and wear off, and so I want to keep them like pristine as like little souvenir trinkets that memorize this wonderful time we had in youth ministry.
My son wanted one. I was like, well, good thing we have 2, so you can use it.
There you go. I thought, which one did he like? This year's
The
or
camp
last
one,
year's?
yeah. Well, the one that says camp on
Okay,
it. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very campy.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. It was so good. Makes me wonder what we're going to do for next year. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Coming to you June 2025.
We'll be here before you know it, to be honest.
It will.
So crazy.
I was gonna say it Willy will. It Willy
Willy,
will.
Willy, Willy, Willy.
It'll
Which
be
I'm really
here.
excited about camp this year because I feel like almost after year's camp, other than our graduating seniors, is going to come with that mindset for this year's camp.
Yeah.
I sure hope so. I mean, I hope I say this in the best way, with all good intentions. But the first year we rebooted camp, I feel like we were like, well, we tried. That wasn't quite what we wanted it to be. Let's
Yeah.
try again. That was like the beta, the alpha test, if you will. I don't know what the right word for.
Reboots kind of struggle sometimes.
the-
You know, they do a lot of that in the Hollywood industry, and reboots they don't always slap.
They're
you know what I
always-
mean? I feel like a reboot's more of a trial and error type situation. So we really had we had to get our camp feet back on. We had to get the old flippers and the wetsuits.
We had to put our chacos back on, you know?
Yeah, we had to
Ugh.
get
Adjust
camp
them.
in the camp vibe. And so now that we're in the camp vibe, I think we're set moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I'm real excited about it, actually.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Camp to know 'em 2025.
Be there.
Be there, as long as you're a teenager.
Yeah,
If you're
or
not,
helper.
you
We
can't.
definitely need the help. So, you know,
Yeah.
there's room.
You're taking applications. If you know how to cook, or you know how to serve, or you know how to be a youth, come on out.
Be a youth.
Or if you're trying to figure out how to be a youth, that's even better. Come on out. You know,
Yep.
for sure. For sure. For sure.
I'll say this: we already shot
Say
a
it.
pod today, so I'm just
You're
like,
pottied out?
I'm pottied out. I'm tired. I'm tired.
Oh my God.
Spent a lot of time on the potty.
Oh,
a
Chewy.
little bit pottied out. So
that's good.
I don't know what that means, but we'll figure it out. We're here
Yeah,
today.
for sure. I had something that I was thinking about,
Oh.
and I was like, we should talk about it, but I can't for the life of me put my finger on it
I've
right
told you, if you ever have things, you need to write them down.
I know. I need to go to a Franklin Covey seminar or something. You know,
A
what I mean,
who?
to figure out how to. It's like one of those. You know, they used to have these popular life organizers back in the day. One was Daytimer and one was Franklin Covey, and they were basically like this thing that you would carry around. My dad had one. It was called a Daytimer, and it had your whole week, and you would it was basically a calendar on the go.
Like a planner.
Yeah,
Oh.
a planner. So Google it, kids. It's
What Franklin? What?
Franklin Covey. When I first got
Covey.
hired at the church, Pastor Mark actually sent me to a seminar to try to organize me. Didn't stick, but I mean, he tried. So God bless him.
To try to organize you. He said, I can't work with this. Someone
This
else do
kid,
it.
something's got to change. And so,
Oh God.
so eventually, I just married Rachel, and that took care of that side of things. Know your weaknesses.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
a good idea. Find people around you that'll fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm one of those people where, it seems like I'm shooting from the hip, but really I got a plan. Even if the plan is to shoot from the hip, there's always a plan.
The plan begins to progress as you keep talking, and then you start circling into what
Michael
you're
Scott
supposed
from
to
The
be.
Office. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to say until I start saying it. Just got to go with it. How we doing back there, Mr. Producer?
Yeah, how was your day? How was the loo? Did you loo today?
I did. I
Yeah.
was at work today.
I saw that you completed a walk,
I did.
so you must have had one of your bad talks with somebody.
What? Oh my gosh!
You must have had a reprimand walk.
Is that what
my
that
God.
I
happens?
don't know. I don't know
You
what
need
it-
like a stress reliever.
It's like,
after
wait, I gotta
those?
take you outside.
So where we're
You wanna go
positioned
outside?
in Bridge Street, there's like a path that you can walk around the lake, and it takes about 10 minutes at like the pace that I typically walk to get around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually I get 2 10-minute, well, it depends on how long I'm there, but I get at least a 10-minute break every day. And so I'm trying to get better about walking during those 10 minutes.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Like walking,
Yeah.
praying, whatever. But then also if I have meetings, like if I have a one-on-one with an employee where I have to do a check-in with them, or I have to deliver feedback, or I'm having a one-on-one with a peer, which
Put
I
'em
have
on a
lot
pit.
of those.
Feedback. Put 'em
Then
on a
I
pit.
typically try to do those like walking, just because it like
puts them at ease before you
it's
take
better
them
than
down.
me like sitting across from them and just staring at them. So
Got to pit it up. Got to say, listen here. You're going on the pit.
pit,
The pit.
it's PIP, right?
yeah,
PIP.
PIP.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Performance enhancing transition or
Not at all.
whatever. I don't know.
What?
I don't know what the acronym stands for.
It's
Performance something.
performance improvement plan.
But see, you could do that.
A pit.
Performance improvement
Plan.
trail. See, that's what they're
Trail.
doing. That's what he's doing when he puts people on the pit. They're like,
taking 'em on
we're
a
walking
trail."
this trail so you can perform. You can improve your performance. This is a pit right
Oh,
now.
gee.
Oh.
See, you just gotta go with it. You flow with it. You rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
I'm excited. By this time, Saturday, Craig's wife and I will be in the great nation of Ecuador.
Ecuador.
And my son.
Ecuador.
Ecuador.
Yeah, and is she excited?
She's so excited.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'd
Lord.
like to clarify it's not just you and his wife.
Oh no, yeah,
Right.
well, there's a whole team that's
It's a whole
going.
team.
Oh my gosh, yikes!
A team
Golly.
of 7.
I don't know. Kelvin, Regina,
Careful.
Carla. Did I say Kelvin? Daniel, Philip, myself, Lauren. 7.
8, including my son.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Oh yay!
Little Oliver.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, what's his name?
Not Oliver.
Jason
Benjamin?
Stamos?
Charlie? One
It
of
starts
those.
with a J.
Does
Are you
it?
naming him Jesus?
Ooh.
Jesus?
I've always wondered, is that weird? Like, because I understand that, like, there's a Latin culture where they name their children Jesus.
Jesus all the
I have a
time. Yeah.
funny-
Sure.
But, like,
story.
would it not be weird if we named our kid Jesus? Like, I don't know, man. That feels weird to me. Like,
Well, some of them go by Jesus.
I
so
know. Sure.
You worked for one.
I did.
You worked for a Jesus.
I did. I mean,
And so
I
Ted-
still do.
What's
Well-
yeah. But what's so funny? So Cody used to work at PacSun, and then a few years later, I worked at PacSun, and I came in the transition where this gentleman named Jesus, but he had everyone pronounce it as Jesus. He
Oh really?
left.
he also went by Jesse. Sometimes people don't feel
Okay.
comfortable
I
calling
did
him
know-
Jesus.
That's true. I did remember.
My man had
hearing
3
about this.
names.
He did.
Anyways, so I was at work one day. I was getting into my retail era. I had never worked for the public. I didn't like talking to people. So the Lord literally blessed me with a job at PacSun. It was actually really great. And so I was getting into talking with people, and this older couple came in to PacSun. It's like, what are y'all doing here?
Shopping for their grandkids.
Possibly. So
Yeah.
they came in, and I was up front, greeted them. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Blah blah blah. And then they're like, Hey, is Jesus here? And I
Funny story. Yes, he is.
So I looked at him and I was like,
so good.
Yeah,
Craig's
he's-
like, we're gonna have a Bible study.
I said, yeah, he's right here.
That's awesome.
And there was a solid, it felt like such a long time. It was probably only like maybe 10 seconds or so, but there was a solid moment where I was staring at them. They were both staring at
That's
me. I was like
amazing.
looking between the two of them. And then I was like, oh,
Manager.
no, he's not here.
Oh gosh, Jesus has left the building.
Because they were talking about Jesus or Jesus, the previous store manager.
Oh, man.
And I was just like, it was wild. Funnily enough, the next store manager, his name was Christian. So,
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
yeah.
What are the odds?
I'm guessing pretty good. If
But
it
I-
went from
I really
from
thought-
Jesus to Jesus, the odds are probably pretty
I
high.
really thought they were talking about Jesus. I was
That's
like, "He's
amazing.
right here.
So
That's so
great.
good. He's right here.
I was like
Do you
so
guys
young in my
believe
faith, and I'm like,
too?
oh my gosh, like this is my moment.
We're everywhere. Christian.
Never had someone just straight up ask me that.
That's so,
So
cool.
great. They literally were
You
like,
probably thought I would have thought like they're gonna try to get me born again,
Right?
So
Do you know
good.
Jesus? I do. I
We
work
had
for him.
when I was going to Bible school in Oklahoma, I worked at Walmart, and we had this one kid.
Hold on. Did you work for Walmart there and here?
No, I never worked for Walmart here.
Why did I think
I
that you
always
did?
picture you working at the one here off 20
No,
for whatever
my
reason.
my 2 years of working at Walmart were exclusively to Oklahoma. So
don't know
I
why I
worked the
thought
first
that.
year. I worked the day shift and I stocked the toilet paper and cleaning supplies. And then the second year I worked overnight, which overnight is awesome.
Yeah, I've always heard overnight stuff at like grocery stores is the best.
It's so cool, man, because it's like it's more of a family than anything. Because like the day shift, like you working with people, but you take breaks at all different times because your shift start at all different times. So you're always in the
And the
break room
public
with
is
different people.
there.
The public's there. Like the night shift, we lock down the building and like close it down. So it's like when we take
Party!
yeah, honestly, we're all taking our break together. We're all taking our dinner together. We're all taking our morning break together.
Everyone's going to the toy section and just playing with toys.
No one worked during break, dude. No one played. We just sat in the break room like and ate. But I really enjoyed overnight shift. It left me really tired for Bible school the next morning
sure.
because I would have to be at Bible school at 8, and I got off at like 7:30, and so that was always awful. Plus, I didn't have a car, so I'd have to walk from Walmart to Bible school, actually to my apartment, and I would change and then walk to school. But the point being is, I don't really remember. Oh no, so okay, yeah. So it was so funny because this Walmart where I worked at was right down the road from Bible school, and so obviously everyone who's in Bible school is really going to work hard to try to get people saved. It was like, you know what I mean? So they
That's what
would
we're here to do.
Walmart was like the harvest field. And so like you're in there and you're preaching to everybody, you're witnessing to everybody. And I had this coworker and which was really funny because like I probably am exaggerating, but it seemed like half the employees went to Bible school. We all went to school
Sure.
and they went to Walmart to work because interesting fact, I know I'm killing a lot of time with the fluff that I hate, but when I worked at the Walmart in Tulsa, at that time, it was the biggest Walmart in the continental United States.
Oh, wow.
It was like one of the first super centers, and it was the biggest Walmart in America
Did it
at
have
that
a
time.
McDonald's in it or a Subway?
No, I don't think it did.
Mm.
I think it had a bank. It may have had a Subway. I really don't remember. But anyways, so it was a huge Walmart. And so when I say like 50% of the people worked there went to Bible school, it probably really wasn't 50%. It's probably much lower than that. But anyways, and so there was this one guy that worked there, and he went to Bible school. And whenever Bible school students would come in and try to witness to him about Jesus, and they'd be like, "Do you believe?" He would give them the hardest time.
Oh, my
And would
gosh.
so they'd be like, "Do you want to get saved?" And he'd be like, "Nah, I'm not really feeling it," you know. And like, "Do you believe in Jesus?" He'd be like, "No."
He really made him work for
He
it.
really did, man. And he'd lead them down this rabbit trail. And he was always telling me, he's like, I'm going to figure out how like strong their conviction is. And so like he would like try to pigeonhole them into a corner where they would deny Jesus.
tries
and I
to
was
talk
this
them
man is
out of it.
Yes. He would like come at it from the other side. It was so funny to watch,
Oh,
man.
man.
And I always felt like, dang, I wish I would have thought of that first. Because that's brilliant. That's so much fun. To like troll these Bible students, like to like when they're out there witnessing and you're like
bad.
just like trying to talk them out of their salvation. I mean, it was just wild. Walmart was good times. And so I didn't have the
These poor
same
kids.
experience where you were, where like someone was like, where they got excited, like, yes, let's talk about Jesus. I was on the other side where this guy was like, I'm going to troll these kids like hardcore.
I'm like stressed for these people.
So wait, he
Yeah.
went to Bible school though.
He was a year above me. So when he was in his second year at Rhema, I was in my first year. And so he
So
was
he had these first year kids thinking that
Yeah.
he knew nothing about him. And
Yes. And then it was so funny too because lots of times I don't really remember how he would left it, but I do remember sometimes when they would see him at school, like the next day or the next week, and they'd be like, something you could just tell like the math wasn't math.
They're like,
Like,
"Is
wait,
that the
I
same
just
guy
talked to you in
from
the parking
Walmart?
lot yesterday, and you were like denying this guy. Like,
Do
what's
I work
going
with
on?
him? Does he have a brother?
Yeah. So good times.
Interesting.
Those were some good years. Learned a lot.
And here you are.
I will say this though. Like, oh my goodness, say something. Like, fill in the void, because I got to think about this for
I
a
just
second.
have so many mixed feelings about all of that.
I'm almost like, a part of me is like, is that
Ethical?
yes? Like as like a
That's
believer,
a
like
occupational hazard, I think. Like,
Really? Why? What do you mean?
like as a I don't like I understand the comedy in it, and it is
Oh yeah,
funny.
it was
Sure.
hilarious.
It is funny,
So good.
but also like me being I would just be like, that was so mean.
I know. I just feel bad because, like, I mean, I don't know if it ever got to that point, but if he actually was able to, like, get someone to start doubting something, it's like, one, you know, maybe did. I don't know.
We're
Why
back
were-
to our last
why
bit
were
of the
they
conversation.
So
I
fragile
hope
to,
he
like,
did it.
doubt. But at the same time, it's like, OMG, like, I feel so bad for them. Like,
Surely he wouldn't let it go for too long.
Surely he wouldn't. I mean, I never like really.
He was a
watched it
second-year
play out
Bible
start
student.
to
invite him on the
finish.
podcast.
I don't even remember his name.
Oh, gosh.
I remember he was
Get the yearbook
shorter.
out.
He had black hair. I don't even know if I have a Ramo yearbook. I'm sure I do. He was shorter. He had black hair, had a black beard,
What if
and
he
had
goes to our
glasses.
church?
And the whole reason I think it made me think of this is because I think he was Latino. And so when we started talking about Jesus and Latino, it kind of triggered that story. But if I have a yearbook, I'll look in it and see if I can find him. And I'd
should
invite
get
him.
yearbooks.
Random guy from Bible school. If you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, you're more than welcome to come. Hopefully
Defend
he's doing
yourself.
well. Hopefully he's doing well in ministry. Unfortunately, the statistics, and I don't know if college is the same way, but statistically speaking, the amount of people that went to Rhema Bible Training College that are actually in ministry today is extremely low, almost depressingly low. But that's another story for another day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well,
What a way to end
Probably,
that.
probably because he got all these kids questions.
probably.
He's the
Why
product.
am I here?
He's like, I started this school with really high hopes, a lot of high
This
energy,
man
and
just
this
comes in
dude
and
at Walmart
crushes.
really bummed me
They
out.
have like a most wanted poster at Ramo with his face
His
on it.
face on it. Well, steer clear of this guy.
He's talking him out of it.
More students have left than any other because of this guy right here.
Wow.
Good times.
Did we
True
fill
story,
enough
though.
fluff for you to?
I don't remember how.
no.
I don't remember how this was going to come to pass on the pod. I was thinking about it today, and so it was something about training, and it was something about continued education and stuff. And I don't remember how it segues into any of this conversation. I mean, obviously, when I say I don't remember how it segued in this conversation, it's because this conversation is completely independent, and there is no segue. It was just something I was thinking about today, and I don't even remember why I was thinking about it. I don't remember if I was studying or doing something at my desk or whatever, and I had this thought about training, and I don't even remember what it had anything to do with anything.
You just had some thoughts today.
It's just some thoughts. But at the same time, like, I'm preparing 3 different messages for Ecuador. I'm preparing 2 different classes for Bible Institute. And so I've got a lot of stuff right now going on, guys. And so I'm all over the place.
How do you handle that?
Handle what?
That's so much. Like, I will say this. I preach once a week on the reg. And so I have a guaranteed sermon most weeks that I know I have to prep for. Like, the past 2 to 3 weeks, you had probably 10 times that you had to speak, and probably at least 7 of those were a different message.
Yeah.
So how? When?
You just grind.
What? What do you do?
You just grind. I mean, I don't know. The biggest thing is, like, I think it's most important just fellowshipping with the Lord. Because you just, as you fellowship with him, he deposits stuff into your heart. And as a minister, when you can preach from that place, it's always better. And there was the one that I taught on idolatry a couple weeks ago. Like, and I'm sure you've had this before, but I was just like, I kept going at it and it wasn't fitting. And then I'd get up and I'd walk and pray and come back and go at it and it wouldn't fit. And then I'd get up and I'd walk and pray and I'd go at it and come again. And then finally I was just walking around my bedroom and I was just praying and I was fellowshipping with the Lord. And as I was fellowshipping with the Lord, he just, like, all of a sudden, like, I saw it and I moved a few things around on the page and it was like boom, 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 boom. And so I think, you just have to really amp it up in fellowship and study time and prayer time. And then I will say this, there are times where it is like, because you're reading your Bible to study and prepare and get sermons, but you're also, I have my daily Bible reading time as well. So the last couple of weeks has just been, it's been awesome. Yeah. The issue with me is like when we come to saturation service or a service like that, and the Lord is like just kind of quiet, and you're like, not cool, man.
It's
Like,
unsettling.
you gotta give me something here. What are we doing? I felt like the prophets in like Jerusalem when they had that 400-year gap where God wasn't speaking, and everyone's just like,
Do something.
yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, and so the last couple saturations I've done, he's just kind of thrown out a couple scriptures in the last couple Wednesday nights, just kind of something rolling around. But I think that's just it, man. You got to go for it.
Yeah.
So, and I will say, like, and I don't know who's listening that this will help or not, but like, I'm always feeding too. Like, always feeding. Even when we're at the movies or with the family, like, I always am, the Lord is always so helpful. He's super helpful, and stuff will stand out, and you're like, oh, that might preach, or oh, I never thought about that before. And then you like start going down like this little rabbit trail, and you're
Right.
like, there's some like profound wisdom and unction in this. And so I think just like always trying to be sensitive,
Right.
it's like something that you never shut off. You just keep that switch on all the time. I keep I use my phone a lot, but I keep notebooks around a lot. Like, I'll be playing Fortnite and I'll get something. I don't know if you ever noticed, but I'll go quiet for like 10 minutes and I'm like writing stuff down. I'm writing down notes, and
He
then
just
come
boxed
in
himself in for a little while. You don't hear from Rob.
Where'd he go? He's like, he's doing sermon prep right now.
So funny.
So, but anyways, I think you just always listening and always praying. I don't know if I answered the question or not, but
Not me taking notes. I'm in sermon prep right now, so. But we're also sermon prepping based on the way that we are told to sermon prep.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how'd they tell you to sermon prep? Because I don't know that I got really any formal education on that.
Well, see, I thought they based it off of Rhema, but Lewis told me, he's like, yeah, we didn't do that there. So I don't know. He said it might have been third year. He's like, but at least what he took, they didn't do the sermon prep that we did in SOM.
we
No.
essentially have like, it's very, very structured and very, very outlined. Like point by point by point by point. But then it's so funny because Pastor B teaches this class, and she was telling us how like other people, she was like, for instance, Miss Opal or Reverend Opal, she preaches off of an envelope, and
Yeah.
you'll see her sitting up there. She'll just turn in the envelope because she's just wrote all around
Looking
it.
for where her notes are.
But then she was talking about how Pastor Rhonda, I guess this last time that she was over further east, they were like on their way to a church, and Pastor B was like, hey, do you know what you're going to preach about? And she was like, nope, no idea. And she was preaching, and then like they get there, and she's like, you know what you got? And she was like, I got a scripture. And then she gets up and preaches for like 2 hours off of like just the one thing.
Yeah.
And so, but it's so funny because what she was saying, she gave us a lot of quotes from a lot of different people. I think Joyce Meyer was one of them. And then I don't know who the rest of the people are. But essentially a lot of them were saying like, I study for me. And like one of them was I fill my cup and I make sure that I keep my cup.
Yeah,
And then what the
sure.
overflow is what's for everybody
Yes.
else.
They did teach us
So-
that at Rhema. They're like, you got to preach from the overflow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't preach from an empty tank. That's a bad way to minister. And so, that's good advice. I know, like, one thing that I was, like, just contemplating, and it's not... anyways, I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole. So.
I mean, I'll say this, like, even with that, like, I don't really use whatever they taught us in
Sure.
SOM, but it definitely helped me at least, like, start in the direction of preparing a proper sermon, or at
Yeah.
least get in the right headspace for it. At least, like, when you have points, like, try to find at least 3 to 4 scriptures that support that point, so that way you can make sure that it is an accurate doctrine or a good
Yeah.
belief to actually convey to somebody. But now it's like it wouldn't look anything like whatever they did, and it was at the time it was very hardcore. Like, they looked to make sure you did the intro with the topic, with the 3 supporting
how it
scriptures,
is.
with the transitional
Yes.
sentence. Like, I remember one time when I was doing my delivery, I was like, I said my point, and then I was like, and transitional sentence, and I went into the
So
next
great.
point. And so that was interesting. But sermon delivery is when it got fun.
Yeah.
I feel like you'll enjoy that.
I'm really excited. I do think that it would have been really helpful to have something like this before I even preached at camp this year, because I feel like, I mean, that was the first time I've ever had to put together like a message, and there wasn't really much put together, to be honest. which I kind of have a feeling about how I will probably continue after SOM. Like, I don't think I will do it the exact way that they show me how. But to your point, I do think it would be extremely helpful, because going from not having to prepare anything to like preparing a message for camp, and then knowing that I'm going to be preaching an SOM, and then afterwards I'm excited to have like some bones, because I wish I could go back and redo what I did in camp. Not that it wasn't like, I believe the Lord moved and all of that, and what's done is done. I don't regret anything, but I do feel as though there could have been like a 2.0 that would have been better. So
I think you almost feel that way after everything.
Yeah.
Because like it was either last night or this morning, I was reflecting on the message that I taught on idolatry. Actually, it was just over there like an hour ago. And I was like, dang, I wish I would have really redid this first point. And so it might be something that I teach again later, because like when I talked about idolatry, I talked about like the three main idols that we worship, like the things that are made by hands, the other people, and then ourselves. And I was thinking about like the things made by hands, like what do you focus on when you're talking about that? Because it used to be like idols, like Asherah poles and all these different things that they actually made out of wooden images and they carved and stuff like that. And I was thinking about, well, what are the things we build with our hands? We build careers, we build families, we build social media
Technology.
outlet, we build all this stuff with our hands, and we end up putting a lot of that stuff. So I was like, man, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? And so like there's times where I feel like you could even have what you feel is like the most flawless service, and we're always like our harshest critic, and you're always looking back and like, wow, I wish, even with saturation service, I was like, man, I wish I would have said this completely different or did this completely different. I think you just can't live that way. You just got to like maybe make some mental notes and be like, all right, next time I'll do this a little bit better. I will say the further ahead you can prepare, the more of that stuff you'll actually get, you know what I mean? Because you've had time to process it and think about it and kind of go over it. And even in that though, I do feel like everybody has to find kind of what works for them. You know, I just think the worst thing that any minister can do is just like not prepare
At all.
I feel like every minister should prepare. Now, whatever that looks like for you, you know, I was listening to one preacher and he was doing a Q&A, and somebody was like, what's the best way to get a message? And he was like, the best way is abandon your notes. He's like, get it in your heart. And I'm like, you can't say that as like an absolute, you know what I mean? Because maybe that works for you, but that won't work for somebody else. Yeah. And so it's about figuring out what works for you. I get what he was saying. Like, you got to get the message in your heart.
You got to know it.
You got to thoroughly, vet it and study it and get 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 it in your heart. But like, I don't think at the same time, the way he communicated, it was almost like, you don't need notes. You just get away from notes. Don't take notes. Don't do this. And I'm like, I can't preach that way at all. I have to have my notes. But, and so I feel like over the process of time, you'll really figure out what works for you. What is the right fit for you. I mean, the main thing they taught us at Raymond when it came to like sermon prep was like the different styles, whether it's like contextual or whether it's like topical, the different types of sermons that you can preach. But as far as sermon prep itself, we didn't have any class for that. So that was kind of like something that we had to navigate on our own to figure out what we were going to do. I will say this, lots of times when I have gotten in trouble, my biggest issue when it comes to sermon prep is I always have so much that I want to preach on. The problem where Robert really struggles is like what Robert wants to preach on, but at the same time, I'm super nervous because I want to preach on what the Lord has for the people. And it's trying to figure out how to marry the two of those to where I'm not stressed out, because there's been times on a Saturday night where I have to preach on Sunday and I've studied it out, but yet I'm trying to talk myself out of it. Like, Lord, is this really what you have for the people tomorrow? Because I know what you have for them is going to be the highest and the best. Right. And so that's what I want to minister. And so like, I feel like I have this, but like, is it the right thing? And I really am terrible. Like, I will vex myself to the point of almost being sick, because it's like, I want to give the people the heart of God. I want to give the people what God has for them in this moment. And I want to remove as much of self from it that I can. And so Rachel's helped me a lot with that. And she's always like, you have the right message. Just stop. Stop freaking out and just trust what you heard from the Lord. So, but yeah.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. There's been times where like, if I don't feel like I have a clear direction on what I'm supposed to minister on, oftentimes I'll just start preparing something, like whether just like, okay, this certain idea just feels good. Like, hey, let's talk about being salt and light this week, or something. I'll just start going in a direction, and oftentimes, like, if it's in those times where I'm not sure and I basically complete the sermon, it's almost like God was like, that was a cute little project for you. This is what we're going to talk about. I was like, great, awesome. Glad that I did all this. And now you're talking to me about it. So I found myself in those situations. But it is cool because when those moments come back around where he's like, I do want you to talk about salt and light, it's like, oh, I already have that now.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
Yeah. Cool.
So cool.
I don't really know what this podcast is,
well,
guys.
no. I will say this, though. I will say to kind of like, to maybe bring this whole thing together and kind of focus it on one. I feel like there is certain things that I don't know that you could find any way to prepare for them. But at the same time, I feel like we have a personal responsibility to be prepared as possible.
Yeah.
For everything. There's something that kind of goes around in church culture that I think is a little toxic, and I don't think it's helping anybody, where we have this saying that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And even though I get the sentiment behind that phrase and I understand it and I agree with it, at the same time, I think we've used it a lot of times to make sure that we're not doing anything that's necessary for us to qualify ourselves for the position that he's given us. And so you don't see a lot of ministers, and they'll almost wear it as a badge of honor. I don't have any formal training. I never went to school for this. I was never taught how to do this. The Lord is my teacher, and I applaud that at the same time. But often than not, most of the times, those are the ones that are teaching the worst doctrine. They're the ones that fall into temptation. You know what I mean? It's like, I think we cannot let ignorance be bliss. We have to understand, okay, I get it. God will qualify me for this.
Yeah.
His hand is upon me so I can do this. But at the same time, like with you in School of Ministry, if somebody feels called to a position, I think it's extremely ignorant not to take any steps to preparing for that season.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if somebody is called to go live on the missions field, I think it would be malpractice, if that's the right word. I don't even know if that's how you say it. When a doctor...
Malpractice, yeah.
Malpractice?
Malpractice.
Malpractice.
Like a cat? Malpractice?
No.
Meow.
Meow. Meow.
They just have a bunch of cats when they're supposed to be
Meow.
doing surgery. It's malpractice.
Meow. That would
But-
be malpractice, probably.
Exactly. Someone's getting sick. But you know what I mean? Like just rolling it all up on God and saying, okay, he's going to handle this. And then you just kind of like, my thing is just to go do. I think it has to be deeper than that. I think we're setting ourselves up for failure if we don't do our due diligence.
Yeah.
If we don't like dig in and say, okay, I'm going to learn
Yeah.
how to do this. I'm going to learn how to study. I'm going to learn how to prepare. I'm going to learn how to contextually study scripture, and I'm going to learn how to pulpit ministry. You know what I mean? I'm going to learn. I think that even if you don't feel called to go to seminary or go to a Bible school, still do something online.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we need to, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's just like I'm almost, and maybe it's just like me making sure that I'm continually training and continually learning. And I've shared this before. I picked up a seasoned minister at the airport one time, and I was like, hey, I'm just starting out in ministry. I was like 23 at the time, maybe 24. I said, if you could give me one piece of advice that's going to help me for all my years in ministry, what would it be? And he looked at me without any hesitation. So it's like he almost like had this locked and ready. Mm-hmm. He said, never stop learning.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like a lot of ministers and even people, maybe you're not called to ministry, you're still called to do life with Jesus.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? You need to set yourself to know what that looks like. You need to set yourself to learn what that looks like. You know what I mean? Like, I'm no longer just going to church to hear, but I'm going to church to learn. I'm going to take notes as to what this life with him looks like. I'm going to learn how to walk with God and how to walk with Jesus and how to do my career with him. And that kind of goes back to the message of idolatry. I don't have my thing and then I've got a Jesus thing. It's like I'm doing life with him, but I've got to learn how to do that, because as human beings, I don't believe it really comes naturally, because that's not our nature to begin with, because we're in a fallen state away from God. And so once we get that regenerated heart and he removes Adam's nature from us and deposits his very own nature on the inside of us, I now must learn how to do that life and how to live according to that nature. And especially ministers. I don't feel like we can just, I'm grateful that I started at 23. Was it 23? Well, 2002. No, I was 22. Hey, look at that.
Look
It's
at
easy when you
that.
have a zero birthday. 1980.
Yes, 1990.
Ching,
We were 10 years apart.
Aw, you so little.
Look at that.
Yeah. And then Craig somewhere in the middle, right?
I'm 3 years younger than him.
Younger?
Somewhere in the middle.
Oh my God.
Wait, you thought I was older than
I
Cody?
don't know why I thought that. That's a yikes and a half. Oh my goodness. You're
Hold
3
on.
years
Why
younger,
did you get
so-
offended by that? let's revisit
You're
that.
just so
was
mature.
wild.
You're so
'Cause
mature
you've
and
known
wise.
him way longer.
Okay.
And he
By
was
like 3 years.
and he was my youth leader.
Listen, time in my head is just a blur. Like, I can't tell you anything about anything when it comes to time. I don't know the last time I was in Ecuador. Was it 10 years ago? Was it 5 years ago? Was it 4 years? I have
I
no
don't
clue.
know.
I can barely tell you, like, when
was
COVID was. Was COVID
2019.
last year? I have no idea. You know what I mean?
Well,
Just-
COVID was 4 years long. That's for
It's still
sure.
happening.
It's still going. It's still happening. 2020.
anyway.
We're still in 2020, and I mean, that's how it feels like.
But I don't do well with time. I can't tell you. Like, even this Wednesday night, I have a message for junior high, but I don't know if it's the same message I taught last time I was in junior high. I have no recollection
So
of
great.
what
You're
I
teaching
even
in junior
said. In my defense, I have spoken 10 times in the last
Right,
2
that's
weeks.
what I'm
So it's
saying. Like, how do you keep
I
it
don't
all
understand.
together?
I don't understand who has gotten what and who hasn't. Wow. Wow. Cut to his camera and show his face and how he did that. No. Oh, my gosh. I do keep it together.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, bro. Anyways.
No, I 100% agree. I think that there are a lot of people that are kind of just out there that are just like, I don't know, outlaw style, just like doing ministry. You know what I mean? Just like living off their own rules. And
Yeah.
like, while I get it, like obviously you don't have to go to seminary. You don't have to go to Bible school to be a minister.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like what you're saying is like, even if you're not, like you should still endeavor to grow in your
Yes.
knowledge and in your craft. That's like, even when I was doing photography as a side gig, like I poured myself into that to learn everything that I could about the craft because I was going to charge people money for this
Yeah.
thing. So I wanted to know what the mess I was talking about.
And you should want to be good at
And
it.
I wanted to be good at it.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
even with like ministry, like, you know, I listen to other ministers and I do my best to like listen to other like books. I definitely don't read books. I listen to books, so make sure that's known. And then, you know, obviously I dig into the word for myself because I want to constantly grow in my knowledge. And then also, like you're saying, I try my best to understand the context of what's happening in the Bible, so I understand who the audience is it's being talking to, what's going on in their timeline, so we can understand what they are going through. And so how does that relate to us today? How do we make that apply to us? And then, you know, I just think that that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
very knowledgeable about the word so that way you can communicate it better. And another thing that it's not like quite contradictory, but I feel like it makes sense. Like one thing they told us in SOM a lot was to prepare like there is no Holy Ghost,
Yeah.
but then when you're up there, rely only on the Holy
Yeah, they
Ghost.
said the same thing at Raymond.
Okay, so maybe that was what
That's
I think.
where it came
Yes,
from.
that's where it came from. And so it's just like you want to do whatever you can to make sure that you're prepared as possible to deliver, because it's a very serious matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what we
It
talked
should
about.
be taken
yeah,
seriously.
like what we talked about today, even just in a sense of like this life with God, consider it vital. Consider every day vital. Consider everything serious. So especially when it comes to communicating what you believe is on your heart from the Lord, like take it seriously.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
your very best to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row so nothing is left on the table.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, what?
I was just thinking, I'll share in a second.
Share it now.
Oh,
No, you're fine.
okay, great.
I don't want you to forget.
Okay, well, I was just sitting here thinking, like, I know someone that used to work with me at Pottery Barn, and every single day they would come in and a guest would ask them about something. They're like, "Oh, it's my first day," and that was their like way of
That's
getting out of doing
amazing,
work.
actually.
They
Wow.
just would be, "Oh, it's my first day. I don't know."
Oh,
And it was
my
their first day
gosh.
for like 3 months. And then
Wow.
they were only there for a short period of time, like because they only needed the job for a short period of time.
Yeah.
They're like clearly like, I just need the money. I'm not really here to do
Honestly,
this.
that's what it was. They were there for the summer
Yeah.
and they just needed money. But anyways, they literally would just tell people, and I found this out later. I didn't know. And so I'm just sitting here thinking, like, as believers, like, you know, we are in the workforce of the Lord, essentially. Like we're all ministers of reconciliation.
Yeah.
We're all called to a whatever size harvest the Lord has prepared for us.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I think a lot of, like, I don't want to say a lot of believers, but I do think there are people out there that they pretend like it's their first day being a Christian, or they pretend like, oh, it's my first day. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like even the Lord will have them like, hey, like go talk to that person. Oh, it's my first day.
Right.
I can't do that.
It's
I don't know. And
way
so
out.
I'm even just thinking like, I while I didn't witness this happen at Pottery Barn with this employee, I'm pretty sure that caused frustration on the guest side.
Sure.
And I'm sure it probably also caused frustration for the employee, because then they're dealing with disgruntled guests because they don't know what's going on, and then they have reason to complain like, oh, I had to deal with this person today or whatever. And so I just like am sitting here thinking like, I think it was really important, like even with my job, like I make it a point in my natural job to learn as much as I can, even if it's outside of my job description, because I also like, while I'm there, I have desire to grow and I have desire to be promoted, and there's not any of that that's going to come my way if I'm not putting in the work to like get better and to be better and to know more. And the same with the Lord. I mean, Scripture says, you know, you're faithful with little, He'll make you rule over much. The story or the parable with the people with the talents, like, you know, one didn't do anything and he didn't get anything, and then the other ones did something, and the Lord or their master like blessed them for that. And so in the same way, I just think it's really important that, I mean, everything that you're saying, like we as believers need to endeavor to learn more, because one, that's how we get, I mean, not that we're doing it to be promoted necessarily in the Lord, but especially those that are called to a ministry of some degree, like you're never going to get to Z if you're not faithful with everything before that. But everyone wants to be at Z, you know? So
I think a large part of it is coming down to kingdom effectiveness. And like whether you're a minister or a believer, we're all in the kingdom. And we want to be effective in that kingdom as His disciples. It's kind of like the person at Pottery Barn that says that they're not Pottery Barn.
Hey,
that's tough.
Pottery Barn.
The old barn.
I don't know why every time I always think of Pottery by You, by the way. So every time you say
Rob
it, I
always
just think
thought
of
about
your
old time pottery.
I did.
He thought I worked right over here.
Yeah, I just think of you like working with like
I was
pots.
in there walking around looking for Craig. He's nowhere to be found. I'm
selling
like,
like
that liar. He
$12,000
said he's at work
sofas and,
today.
I pictured you working with clay all day, like doing little cool art on it.
Yeah.
So good.
I thought he worked down the street until he quit. And that was like, well, now I'm not going to find him
He's
in there
like,
for
that's why I
sure."
never saw you there.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
But I feel like it's, you know, when someone is doing that as an employee of that place, it's not just setting them back, but it is setting back that place because, you know, on a natural,
100%.
A natural scope of it, like you could be making a sale and helping this company move forward, but because of your negligence and your lack of desire to press in and figure out what is on aisle 4 or what is on aisle 5 or where does this go and how much does this cost, what sales are you running today, it's just you don't want to be a student of what you're doing, so therefore you're holding back everybody. You're holding back the customer from finding what they want, you're holding back the company by growing, and you're holding yourself back. And that's the way it works in the kingdom too. When we don't learn who we are in Christ and we don't learn about how to live and operate and function in this kingdom, we hold the kingdom back. We withhold from others for them finding out what good kingdom representation is, and so they don't want to come into the kingdom, and then we hold ourselves back. And so everybody is negatively affected by the mantra of, oh, I don't need to learn anything, God's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Man, that just makes me think of like, that's the difference between someone that's invested or not invested.
True.
You know what I mean? Like that kid, I'm assuming was a kid because you said it's a summer gig, so maybe they were home for the college or whatever.
I'll
But
tell you
like,
who it was later.
but like that, that
Getting the tea.
that person was clearly they were just there for the paycheck.
sure,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
100%.
there's not really any harm or foul. Obviously, I understand that there are people that like they're just there to fulfill a need. But like you, obviously, to some degree, you're invested in that company.
Yeah.
And so you care about whether that sale is made or you're able to help that person. It makes me think of like John 10 where it talks about how a hired hand, you know, will be quick to run off when trouble comes. It's like, and that's the difference between a hired hand and a shepherd.
Yep.
Because the shepherd is invested in the flock. The
Yeah.
shepherd
Yeah.
cares
That's
for the
so good.
flock. The hired hand doesn't really care other than the paycheck that they might get from said flock. And so we have to decide, are we going to be invested in what God has called us to, or are we just treating it like a hired hand would?
Yeah.
And if you're invested into it, I believe that that's when you're able to get excited about it, and you're able to grow in it, and you're able to become better at it because you make it a part of who you are.
Amen.
Even though it shouldn't be your identity, it becomes a part of your identity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You used to say, or we don't really say it a lot anymore, but in youth, it's when I was in youth, especially, you used to say if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting here thinking too, like with the last thought that I like left off with, everyone wants to complain about like the state of the world and the state of society and all this other stuff, but they don't want to do anything to fix it. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, for believers specifically, those that have, like, you have a responsibility, and if you're not doing
Yes.
your part,
Yes.
I'm even thinking like on the natural side, like this individual at Pottery Barn made it harder on everybody else
Right.
that was there that day, because then now a guest that's now frustrated is going to go to someone else and having to pick up the slack that this person didn't
Yeah.
do. And again, I know this individual, and they might at some point listen to this, and like, you're there for the paycheck, and that's great, but this works really great for this illustration. So, but I'm just sitting here thinking, like, they, you know, believers want to say how bad things are, but if they'll just do their part and
Yeah.
just do what the Lord tells them to do, then that can also set you up as a minister.
Absolutely.
Like, that's bringing people to church, like that's setting them up, like being a good representation of Christ, so that when they do come to church, they're open to receive. Or when somebody else, when the person that actually does come across their path, that is the person that's going to harvest them, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's like they've been watered. There's seeds that are sown, water. They've been watered. They've been tended to, and they've been the one doing that, so that seed can actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
And so,
Amen.
Yeah.
It's the old saying that a rising tide raises all ships. And if you will just bring the caliber of your life up, then everything around that comes up with it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm going to bring that back Wednesday night when I preach junior high. If you want to change the world, change yourself. We're going to Proverbs 4. All right.
it inspired me.
Yay!
So good. That and the song where we turned around a lot.
I miss that song.
So good.
When I move, you move. I move in Jesus.
Is
That
it
wasn't
one?
it.
I don't think it's that
Oh.
one.
No,
okay,
it was
dang.
you have turned.
My morning
Running
into
into
dancing.
Then you've got Matt over here. His earlobes are like playing the bass for him.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh, that's so gross. So good. That is so. They would. Those
What a
lobes
time.
would be bouncing. They had a good
Man.
time when he's up there on
They
stage.
had a good time. They had their own personality.
They sure did.
Oh, Matt, we love you.
So great. Happy belated birthday.
Yeah. Oh, happy birthday to you too.
Thanks.
You guys shared the same day,
We do, along with Chris Hemsworth.
and Brianna Long.
No, she's the 10th. Yikes.
For a second, I was like, Chris Hemsworth, how do I know him? I was like, oh, yeah, I know the one. Duh.
But yeah, Bree's birthday is the 10th, actually.
Okay. I just know. I just.
So we shared a birthday weekend.
I texted her happy birthday like a couple days ago. I don't know what day it was.
I need to say something. I forgot.
Again,
but
time.
It's the 10th.
You know, whatever.
So good.
Yeah. So just, last couple things before we dive off.
Dive off.
And I'm going to say this reluctantly, maybe. I don't know. Probably
It's
not.
gonna be so good.
No regrets.
Not even a letter.
Not even the letter. But, just make sure that you're doing your due diligence. And I think that's part of it, like what Craig said. We'll just say what Craig said, and then we'll leave. Self-improvement, self-betterment, so that way everyone around you can become better. And I truly believe the best way to self-betterment and the best way to self-improvement is to learn more about who you are in Christ and in God and in fellowship with Him, because He knows you better than anyone, and so He can really work a lot of the rough edges off of you if you'll just dive in there and say, okay, I'm willing to learn from you and learn of you. And so, but no one can do that for you.
Yeah.
And it's a process that you have to work with God and work for yourself. And so don't be lazy.
So good.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Not
We
calling
love
anyone
you.
lazy.
Oh. Are you, though?
No, I'm not. I said don't be.
Oh.
That's the difference than calling someone
that's
than
true.
saying you are.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
It's like you have an option, which I guess if you are, you still have an option, but
you
kinda,
absolutely do.
Yeah,
You always have a choice.
always have a choice, even if that choice is very difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that he's been working on me about lately. Is like he's got some stuff that he's put in my heart that I've got to awkwardly give birth to, and so it's going to require a lot of work. And so because it's required a lot of work, I've kind of been shuffling it.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So, but I got 4 months left of this year.
Oh, did it he wants you to do it this year?
Yeah.
So good.
You're like, I don't want to say it.
No, non-committal.
That's
a whole
weather
nother podcast.
outside is
Can't
weather.
lock me down.
Birthing things it's always going to be work. So
Yep. So, but I'll let y'all know in January if I got it done.
perfect. We have a minute.
I think
and
I
a
can
half.
get 2 of them. I don't know if about all 3. Anyways.
Thank the Lord for His grace. All right. Love
Bye.
you guys so much. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh.